coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
And I was pregnant with my first baby girl when I started my business. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with flowers. I just knew that they made me happy and that I'd figure it out along the way. So it started like we were doing farmers markets and Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and like all these different sorts of things. We did graduation pop-up shops, and eventually we landed on weddings and events, and that's what we do now. And in 18 months, we ended up doing over 6 figures in weddings and events, which was phenomenal because I was making like $25,000 a year in this, small little office that I hated so much.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice in business, you're in the right place. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, empowerment coach, visibility and marketing expert, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Marta. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Yay! I am too. It's been great to connect with you and to be part of your show and your series as well. And now it's my turn to have you on and share your amazingness with my audience. So welcome again. Why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Alyssa, but everybody calls me Lyss, and I am a 5-time business owner. I have my first book launching early 2023 that I'm so excited about. And ultimately, I just want to help other moms to really find their passion in life and know that they don't have to be defined by just the title mom, because I know so many people, the ones around me, really struggle with losing their identity and feeling like this is what they have to do for the next 18 plus years, depending on how many kids they have, before they can actually pursue their passions. So my entrepreneurial journey just started, and then I want to say it's just dove deep, into just snowballed into what it is now. And I'm excited to be here and connecting with you.
Yay, I'm super excited as well. Well, so let's get started and talk about noticing yourself, getting to know yourself. I would love to hear your thoughts on, understanding more of your personality, or specific examples of what this entrepreneurial journey or even the motherhood journey have taught you about yourself, things that helped you recognize more how you operate and who you are. And even if you want to bring up personality types, the Enneagram, I'd love to hear more about.
Yeah. So it's funny, as a child, I was one of the most competitive people you would have ever met. My mother, my grandmother, everybody used to joke that I had this #1 syndrome. And now I've come to learn that it's very much an Enneagram 3, an achiever. And to this day, they still say, oh my gosh, Liz, you have this #1 illness, you have to be #1 in everything. And what it comes down to now is that I am constantly trying to level up myself and try to be #1 in whatever I'm trying to do or accomplish. And I find it actually really beneficial, when you're going after your goals and everything, because you have this new inner fire within you to try to do better. Where some other people might lack that. And I know a lot of my family around me seems to lack that ambition, I want to call it.
Yeah.
So in this entrepreneurial journey, I find that this #1 syndrome that I have is really lighting my fire and keeping me building more businesses and better businesses and improving myself developmentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that goes hand in hand with your journey too, of having those 5 businesses. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about the journey with that and starting something new. What were the businesses? What are you currently working on? And if it's more than one thing, super curious now.
Yeah, of course. So it started almost 3 years ago, with a floral design business. And I was working for a chiropractor in a 4-foot by 8-foot office with no windows. There'd be rat poop on my desk, and it was really awful. And I decided after 10 years that I had enough of that. And I was pregnant with my first baby girl when I started my business. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with flowers. I just knew that they made me happy and that I'd figure it out along the way. So it started like we were doing farmers markets and Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and like all these different sorts of things. We did graduation pop-up shops, and eventually we landed on weddings and events, and that's what we do now. And in 18 months, we ended up doing over 6 figures in weddings and events, which was phenomenal because I was making like $25,000 a year in this, small little office that I hated so much. So that really like dipped my toe into it. And from there, we started preserving flowers for the weddings and funerals. So we were able to capitalize on both and help minimize the objections that people have, like, oh, flowers die. It's like, okay, but you can actually preserve them now. So that was something else we started. And then when being in the industry, I turned my listening ears on, and all the other florists were complaining about having to clean up their events at the end of the day. So I was like, oh my gosh. I told my husband, I was like, Larry, I have an idea and you're going to hate it. And he was like, no, I don't think I'm going to hate this idea, because we are going to help other florists clean up their events and capitalize on the fact that they don't want to do it. And it's such a needed issue, especially when there's so much staffing issues going on in this past year. So in this whole journey, I said to one of my friends that went to school for publishing, and I was like, I really want to write a book. And she was like, Lyss, that's great, but you need an audience. So then I started building my personal brand. So that started the podcast, that started writing the book. It started all of my social media accounts and the YouTube channel and all of these things that went along with it. And in the creation of all of this, I had to bring together a team because I couldn't manage all of this by myself. So I brought on a podcast editor and a YouTube editor and all these people. And that's where my 5th business came in, which is Mama Media. And that's a digital production company to help other moms share their story and grow their business.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What a journey. And what an entrepreneurial mindset of always finding the solutions to the problems that you're perceiving and just going for it. And wow, that's so fascinating. I love that so much. And the different businesses within the business, and then wanting to share your journey with the book, which is about to come out. So tell us more about the book. And I'd love for us to go into the listening, because you were listening not only to yourself and to your creativity in that aspect, but also listening to what people were telling you and in creating the audience. And I'm sure paying attention to what people are needing from you as you're developing this personal brand business and in helping moms as well. Tell us more about the book.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it because, as I've been going on different shows and sharing my story with the world, everybody's been asking, like, how are you doing this? Like, that's a lot of different things to manage. And especially with 2 babies, because I had 2 under 2 at the time. And my book is basically about growing your businesses and overcoming the limiting mindsets that come up throughout the whole process, because we know that limiting mindsets, like, they don't just come up once and you overcome them, they come back. So every chapter is its own limiting mindset, and it brings you through the 4 phases of becoming a mompreneur.
Oh, that's wonderful. Which leads right into my question about forgiveness. And I know part of the self-forgiveness in your journey is similar to mine, with being a 3-2, is forgiving ourselves for always wanting more and not, feeling successful at what we're doing, because it always has to be better. And as soon as we reach something, there's something next. But I would love for you to share, like, what that self-forgiveness has meant for you, and maybe forgiving people along the way, some specific stories or anything that comes up for you.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have to forgive myself for, and like the people around me, is feeling like it's okay that nobody else really understands the journey, and it's okay that they're not as supportive as the way that I've built it up in my mind that I wanted them to be. As an Enneagram 3, we're constantly trying to get the approval of others and feel like we have to earn the love, especially from my parents, and they just don't do it that way. And that's something that I've really had to forgive them for, is not being able to satisfy my need for that. But it's funny that you brought up the feeling of failure, because that's something that I encounter probably every single week, that it's like, even with everything that's happening, and looking back on my journey and see how far I've grown in just 2 years, I still feel like I'm failing in everything. And that's something I'm still working to overcome.
I know. I was was it that I was listening? Yeah, I was listening to this one session in a coaching program that I'm in, and talking about like the shadows and, the lessons that you're here to learn based on your own life's journey. And it's a big realization to realize that these things are never really going to go away. You're just going to learn to deal with them because they're going to keep coming up. In fact, I was just talking to a friend and telling her how, Facebook memories will pop up, or even we're the end of the year and I'm reflecting on what happened this year. There were so many more positive things than negative things. And I tend to focus on the negative things and keep telling myself how unsuccessful I was because of those few and far between things, when there were so many other positive things. Or even looking back at memories when I would look at myself in pictures and think, oh, I looked terrible. And now I look back and I'm like, I actually did not look terrible. And I know this is how I feel about myself now.
Yeah.
So it's like, never happy with anything and always nitpicking at the perceived failures, when in reality there's so much more amazing things to be grateful for. And I guess that's part of our lesson.
Yes.
In this lifetime, it's to focus on the good stuff, because there is so much, and it's usually easier for us to perceive that with others than with ourselves. So that's the journey. So thank you for sharing that. Now, so one way to forgive ourselves and to move into more of that positive stance is to empower ourselves by talking about the things that we're proud of, because there's lots of that. So I'd love for you to toot your own horn here. And I mean, when you were telling me, I didn't realize that it was 2 years. Like in my mind, it's like, this is amazing. Everything that you just told us that you did in just 2 years. That's insane. So congratulations. But tell us more. What were some of the other highlights? Because you already shared so many.
Yeah. So like you said, like one of the things that I need to do is like, I like to journal, and that's like how I really reflect and like brag about myself in my journal, because it's like, I need to look back on these things to say like, oh my gosh, this is everything that you accomplished in 18 months and 2 years. Like, you're doing a good job. Stop comparing yourself to other people or what you think you should be doing. But to toot my own horn a little bit, my book is done. It's in the editor's hands, and it's coming out in February 2023. I've built 4 businesses this year in the last 6 months. They're startups still, but I'm still proud of that. My podcast has been out, and I've been consistent in posting and consistent with my whole content schedule with all of it. I have officially brought on another social media manager to help manage all of it, because I have like 8 different Instagram accounts on my phone alone.
Oh my gosh.
What else? What else am I excited about?
What is the name of your podcast? Just so people can
It's Making Mommy Moves.
Making Mommy Moves. I love it. And it's
Thank you.
So I was part of the series Behind the Business. Was that published within the podcast as well, or is that separate?
It was a summit. So that was separate, but I actually want to bring them onto the podcast in 2023. So they get another round of it.
Oh, nice. Yes. Keep me posted. I would love to come back and talk more. But I love the name. So people go check out, and I'll be sure to put the link in the show notes as well. That's a lot to be grateful for. I mean, just the fact of all the businesses in the 2 years or the few months, and the income that you've brought and the people that you've helped, like even saying like the solutions that you're coming up with for clients, for people in the industry, like that's amazing. Lots to be proud of. And finally, what is your biggest transformation that you feel you've experienced in the last 2 years or in the lifetime? And even if you want to bring up clients that you've helped, I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So I think the biggest transformation in myself is caring a little bit less about what other people think, because I am a serious people pleaser across the board. And being able to show up, even though I feel like everybody's judging me or not supportive of that journey, is a big transformation for me, because I used to just like hide in my own little shell. So being able to show up on my podcast and show up on YouTube and show up just as the person that I am trying to be for everybody that wants the support is huge.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is really huge. And yeah, thank you for following your heart and doing that, because I know you're doing
so much good for people that need to hear this message and to be vulnerable. And I think that's one of the gifts that as threes we get to bring into the world, is once we are able to be vulnerable and be okay with being seen for who we are instead of putting the mask of what we think people need to see to love us. It's so amazing that the lesson that we're here to learn is what really benefits people. And it's challenging, but it's also so rewarding.
It is.
At the same time. I love it so much. Well, last but not least, you've read my book. You've gone through the steps. You were able to see yourself through the eyes, right, of the Enneagram and understanding more. I would love to hear your take on what an empowered woman means. What is an empowered woman, Lyss?
I think an empowered woman is so confident in herself that she's able to show up as herself and be able to put herself forward in a way that helps others around her.
Yeah. I love it. Short and sweet. Well, tell us how to find you. Of course, you have your book coming up, so people are going to have to stay tuned for that because it sounds amazing and very much needed. Tell us all the details.
Yeah. So if they want to, they could get a free resource that'll give them all the details about the book when it comes out, and also give them 5 of my favorite resources to save time as a mompreneur. So I'll give you the link so you could share it. But the easiest way to find everything is through my website. It's lyssmorton.com.
Okay, pretty easy. And what's your main Instagram account?
Lyss.morton.
Okay, that's easy. Awesome. Well, I'll be sure and put all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And now we're connected on Instagram, so I'm always seeing your stuff too. Congrats on all your amazing success and on the upcoming book.
Thank you so much, Marta. This was so fun.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.